All right, this is a video about the pros and the cons of living in Logan, Utah. What is that? Anyway, there's like some guy on stilts out there. I don't know if you can see him. Over by the gas station. Anyway, whatever. The pros and cons. How am I gonna do I want to do pros first or cons first? Heads, tails. Pros. All right. Pros of living in Logan. Cost of living. I moved from Portland to Logan to go to graduate school, and basically getting a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment in Logan was about the cost of what would get me a small room in a house with lots of roommates in Portland. So that was great. The other thing is it's very safe. There's low crime. It feels really good. Like, again, coming from Portland and like not having to like look out your windows at night because you heard a sound, right? So like being able to like just relax. Like I remember watching my kids playing outside and it was just quiet, and it just like there was just this feeling of like, oh man, this feels so good. You know, like I just freaking loved it. There's that safety and low crime factor. All right. Decent access to nature and recreational activities. Like within 7 minutes from leaving my house, like I could be in the canyon. Like that's insane. Number 4, and I have 10 pros and 20 cons. Okay, number 4, in casual interactions, people are friendly. Like, they still kind of got that small town vibe of like you're walking by and like people will like, you know, or if they're kind of like a cowboy, you know, they'll like tip their hat. Like, I love that. Like, that's so cool. Okay, number 5, USU. So, as a graduate student, I was pursuing a PhD in neuroscience and wanted to know what school I should go to, and I looked all across the country, and you know, it's hard because you have to find a faculty advisor who's researching what you're researching, and you have to find a school that has like the resources and, you know, programs, you know, so it's complicated, but I found something that worked at USU. And so I consider BYU and the University of Utah. And BYU, it would like religion and you know, the historical personality of Joseph Smith is part of my like a big part of my graduate research. Like, I know, neuroscience, Joseph Smith, what the heck? Video for another time. Needless to say, BYU is very like it would have to be 100% pro LDS church, right? And it's not anti LDS, but you know, it's scientific investigation. So like, you know, I didn't want that to get in the way. Plus, I did my undergrad at BYU, you know, whatever. Then I went to the U, and like there was this really cool study that they did at the U. And this professor, I'm not going to name his name. I'm sure you could Google it because it's very fascinating. But it's basically about how, like, the neuroscience of religious and spiritual experience. So, sorry, I have, like, a medication up under my, like, lower lip that's being absorbed. So, if it looks kind of weird while I'm talking, that's why. Anyway, it was so cool because it was like what's happening in your brain when you're having a spiritual experience, right? And like they used LDS people as like the population of research subjects. So like, I was really excited to go talk to him about this. And basically, like, my chaperone, he was a postdoctoral student, a fellowship student, and he pulled me aside and was like, don't ever bring that up. Like, he almost got fired, and like his entire department almost got fired for that. Like, anything relating to religion or God or the LDS church, like, is a no-no here, right? And so where I found BYU like super religious, and like when it comes to LDS especially, and then like where I found the University of Utah to be like so anti-religious, like Utah State was this great balance of like neutrality, which I really appreciate and really liked. So that's just one aspect, but like USU is a great school, and they have like a lot of cool programs and resources, and like I have a lot of respect for the Ags. All right. Number 6, there are some very beautiful areas in Cache Valley. Like, I'm talking neighborhoods, I'm talking just, nature. Like, you drive through Cache Valley and like you explore it enough like I did, and like you'll start to find things of like, wow, this is so beautiful. Like, surprisingly, one of the most beautiful places I think in Logan is the cemetery on campus. Like, I love that. There's like this huge mysterious cemetery in the middle of campus. Anyway, number 7, the kids and like youth in general are polite, and for the most part, like really hardworking, good kids. I like that. All right, there's enough to do and places to shop. Like, they've got like a couple Walmarts, they've got a Sam's Club, they've got a Best Buy, they've got a mall, which, that doesn't really matter as much anymore, but, movie theaters and all that stuff. Like, if you're into that, like, there's enough to do. I would like if they had a Costco, but oh well. Number 9, and I'm pointing this out specifically because I learned to really love it, but the access to like various hot springs is just top notch. Like, I absolutely loved going to the hot springs. Had many adventures with friends and my kids there, and it was just fun. All right, number 10, and the last one on the pros. There's some cool folklore, like local folklore and legends to learn about and explore, which I could explain that in another video, but that's the pros of living in Logan. Now the cons. Are you prepared? Because I have 20 of them. All right. Number 1, there is this odd obsession, borderlining on like a pathological complex with BYU and all things Provo in Logan. Like even like in like, so like I taught high school, like mostly science classes in Cache Valley. And I taught at almost every high school. I was a substitute. And, like, even just bringing it up, like, like, hey, where'd you go to college? And I'd be like, oh, I did my undergrad at BYU and my master's at USC. And, before I could even get to, like, where I did my master's, there was just huge growing, like, BYU sucks. Like, we're so much better than them and all this stuff. And I'm just like, finally had to just be like, you guys, you got to get over this BYU thing. All right? Like, BYU people, like, don't really, like, care, about Logan. And, like, it's just this school that, we play sometimes in football. Like, it's not like this huge deal. Like, I could go into it more, but I just remember finding it to be like very odd that there was just this like we are not Provo, we are not BYU, like we are not, like, it's like, I get it, like, you're not, like, but you're still from Utah, okay? Like, coming from Portland, there's enough similarities that, like, to the casual observer, like, it's really, like, you're not that much different in a lot of ways, all right? So, like, that was just kind of a weird thing. And, like, normally I wouldn't care, but, like, you know, having gone to BYU, like, it just was something I had to deal with on, like, a daily basis of, you know, this thing. And, like, the reason why I didn't, that it got on my nerves so much was there was this, like, holier than thou feel, which I know anyone hearing this is gonna be like, yeah, right, no, BYU's the holier than thou. But it's like, no, dude, like, any BYU person who, like, goes and, like, lives in Logan afterwards or whatever will know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's not just me. Ask them. Ask around. All right. Number 2, there's some really judgmental people in Logan. Combined with, like, this general, like not being very bright too, but, like, they kind of, I don't know, this is kind of tough to talk about because I know, like, I'm gonna, like, look like a big jerk or whatever for saying this, but, like, I am really sensitive to, like, being around judgmental, especially gossipy people. And, like, the gossip's a thing in Logan. Like, you would be surprised at just how quickly things will get around. All right? That's all I'm going to say about that. I could go into it a lot more. Just beware. All right, number 3. The politics and bureaucracy in Logan is real. And I'm talking, like, you know, I'll get into this more later, but, like, teaching school, that was, like, a big deal. Dealing not just with the kids, because the kids for the most part were really cool. I really liked the kids. It was the teachers and administrators. Like, it's unlike anywhere else I've ever been. Getting used to and getting a hang of the politics. But yeah, I'll go into that more in a different video. But all right. Number 4, the police are corrupt. All right. I have never been arrested. I have no criminal record. I don't even really have so much as a traffic ticket. Like, I've gotten one before, like a minor one, but I don't think it's on my record anymore. So anyway, I was harassed more by the police, and, like, I'll show you my car. All right. But, like, I drive kind of this, like, beater car. Like, I just paid like $800 for it, and, like, you know, got a title, and now I don't have car payments, and it's great, and I don't have any problems. But it looks like a creeper mobile. All right. So here it is. And at the time I had like long hair and like a crazy beard, right? And you know, the police, like, often told me, like, you just look suspicious, right? And so, like, I was harassed. Like, I had been detained like 5 times in my time in Logan, and I only lived there for like 2 years. Yeah, like 5 detentions. I'd been pulled over like 4 or 5 times. Like, I had been put in handcuffs once. Like, it got intense. Like, nothing came of it, you know, because I didn't do anything wrong. But, like, they were trying hard to get me to incriminate myself. I think primarily just because I look suspicious, apparently, right? Like, now, mind you, like I said, like, I've never had any problem with the police. It's never been a problem in my life. But this was something that I was like, wow, this is really weird. I could go into it more, but anyone who's lived in Logan, like, will tell you exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Number 5, the Utah LDS culture dominates, but they pretend like it doesn't. That's kind of going back to that number 1 con about, like, the BYU Provo complex, is like, there's this, like, the LDS, like, culture definitely dominates in Logan, but, like, the BYU people are so much worse, right? And one thing that like I would tell people and they just couldn't believe me is like 80 something percent, like sometimes it's as high as like 88% of BYU students are not from Utah. Like they grew up like the only Mormon kid in their school, and they just want to go to BYU so they can like for me, that's like one of the main reasons I wanted to go, is like I just want to like for once just live in an environment where like everyone shares my values. But there's just kind of like this like, oh, I don't know, I'm rebelling, or like I'm not stepping in line to like follow the trend by going to BYU. It's like, I don't know, the whole pretending that like the LDS culture in Logan isn't a thing, like was something that just, I'm telling you, after a while it started to bother me. All right. Number 6, they are a different, distinct brand of what I would call a Utah Mormon, and it's a culture unlike anywhere else in Utah. So, like, you have Utah Mormons, and what I mean by that, I don't mean to offend, although I know I'm sure I will, but, like, you have Utah Mormons who, as someone who's not from Utah and, like, never lived in Utah, like, I was born in Provo, but, like every Mormon who grew up outside of Utah and comes to Utah, like it's a shock to them at like how different like the church is in Utah and the church culture. Like I remember just being blown away with like a discussion we had in Sunday school about how like whether to like let their kids play with like non-Mormon kids. Like that was really difficult for me to like deal with, but it happened and it happens. All right, I'm gonna start going through these a little bit quicker because I see I'm 17 minutes and let's see, I've got 15 more to go. All right, number 6, number 7, sorry, the traffic sucks. Don't travel on Main Street or anywhere near it during rush hour. Enough said. Number 8, isolation. It's easy to feel closed off from the rest of the world in Logan. Yeah, should I go into that more? No, like, you'll know what I mean. Number 9, discrimination happens, especially if you look like or are an outsider. I ended up getting fired from my job, which I'll go into that more later, as a high school teacher. Not because I even did anything wrong. It's just I felt like from the second I walked into that school with my guitar strapped over my shoulder and like, you know, my hair and my beard, like all eyes were on me, like from the administration, the adults. Like it was just like not even just from the police force, like you'll know what I mean by that if you represent anything having to do with being an outsider, like whether you're from Logan or you just don't look like you're, you know, from Logan. I don't know what it, like, that's just, all right. Number 10, the tattletale culture is the worst I've ever seen, and not just with the kids. So, like, okay, with the kids, like, so when I would go to teach, a teacher would, like, write out a lesson plan, and, you know, it would also say which kids are, like, the good kids. You know, which ones are going to be helpful to you. And I noticed very quickly that the ones that the teachers consider the good kids are the ones who tell on other kids, right? Mr. Music, that's what the kids called me. Mr. Music, so-and-so is not on the computer program they're supposed to be on, you know, which was annoying, but like I could see where it started. It started when they were like kids, to learn that like if you want to get on the teacher's good side, if you want favor, you tell on people. And that was hard for me. All right. But like the adults, like this is what was so hard for me, was that like my philosophy is like if I have a problem with someone, like, I'll go right to them and address it, all right? And say, like, hey, you know, I've kind of got a problem with this, right? And, like, let's work it out. The way that I would see a lot of adults handle things is, like, they would see you do something and get quiet, not bring it up to you, and then behind the scenes when you're not around, they would tell on you. And this is what happened to me teaching high school. Having people, you know, like tell on me for something that I, like, brought up. Like, here's just one example. Like, I asked the kids, like, hey, what percentage of the school is LDS? Like, I'm just curious, because it was, like, when I first moved there, first started teaching. And they said, like, you know, like, probably 9 out of 10 kids in the school is LDS. I'm like, wow, that's insane. Cool. We'll move on. All right. I later get this report that I was teaching religion in school. And I'm like, what? Like, where does it even come from? Teaching religion? Like, that's a perfectly, like, okay thing to ask. All right. Weird. All right, I'm moving on. Number 11. Me and my wife at the time, we got divorced while I was in Logan, but it was actually just last fall the divorce went through, so I'm officially, you know, a single guy, but, you know, we separated end of 2018, beginning of 2019, so yeah, it's been like 2.5 years. Whoa, look at my hair. That's wild. All right, so we invented this thing called Logan Cants, all right? And, like, what's a Logan Cant? Well, I noticed really quickly that, like, problem-solving skills amongst, like, your common worker in Logan, like, just, it seems like there's something lacking there. So, like, I would ask, like, hey, do you have, you know, could you, I know it's not on the menu, can you, like, you know, make this up for me? Like, if I'm at IHOP or something. Usually, like, oh, yeah, I can mix a few things around, I don't know. But, like, in Logan, like, there's a lot of people who are just like, no, can't do it. Like, no, it's against the policy, right? And, like, it ranged from, like, all kinds of stores, all kinds of, like, services, all kinds of people of, like, encountering Logan Cants. All right. Number 12, you must learn to play the game in Logan, and there is definitely a game to be played if you hope to get along there. I'm not going to go into that, but you know what I mean. All right. Number 13, there's an odd social awkwardness you'll experience in casual interactions, and you'll quickly learn what I mean by that. I'm saying that a lot. You'll learn what I mean. I think that's, like, a big thing, is, like, you just, like, you'll learn it when you get there, but, like, you'll know what I mean. All right. Dating, it's very unusual. Not terrible, but it's unusual. When I started dating again, and maybe that's just because, like, dating has changed so much from when I started dating, but, like I noticed, like, just, you know, moving from, because I eventually moved after the divorce to Provo to work on some stuff for my research with the students at BYU, the graduate students. And yeah, I mean, like, oh my gosh, like, it was a difference. Like, Logan dating and Provo dating are different. I'm not going to say which, you know, it's not in a matter of, like, greater than or less than, but, like, it's just unusual in Logan. All right. The kids love Post Malone for some reason. Like, it was odd. And they would, like, always tell me I look like Post Malone. I guess I don't look like him as much anymore because I've gotten a haircut since then. But, yeah, like, the kids love Post Malone. I can't figure it out. Like, I haven't really seen it, like, that much enthusiasm anywhere else. But Post Malone. All right, number 16. It's somewhat backward time warp. For example, like, the taboos that exist. So, like, talking about marijuana is like very taboo in Logan. Like, just I'm warning you. All right, number 17, medical providers, staff, and etc. I had some difficulty there. Like, again, that suspicion, right? Like every doctor that I saw, like immediately was asking me the questions that like I'm trained to know about of like people who are like drug abusers and stuff. So anyway, but availability is great. Like, you won't have a problem getting in to see a doctor, like usually same day you request an appointment. So like that's cool, but just be aware of that. 18, the smog and air pollution during the winter is just awful and generally smells like cow poop throughout the town. Like, just, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Number 19, illegal immigration is a problem. And then finally, number 20, the wages are low and the good jobs are scarce. Like, there's some good companies there, but, I mean, like with any college town, like they've tapped into the resource of like college students who will like be willing to work for next to nothing. And so, like if you're making like $12 an hour in Logan, like you're doing really good. Like, yeah. So anyway, there it is. That is my pros and cons of living in Logan. I'd be interested in your thoughts. And peace out, dudes.